Hot cross buns are a traditional favourite for Easter, but these have the addition of chocolate, which makes them even more delicious. To make the chocolate hot cross buns, we'll need to make a bread dough. If you've never made bread dough before, there are a few tips and tricks you'll need to learn to make sure it rises, but trust me, it isn't too difficult. Just set aside an afternoon and you'll be so pleased with what you've created. In a small saucepan, measure out the butter and place over medium heat to melt. Alternatively, you can melt it in the microwave if that is easier. For these chocolate hot cross buns, we're making an enriched dough, which basically means it has extra ingredients added, butter, milk and egg, to make the bread richer than a standard white loaf. If you would like the full recipe for these chocolate hot cross buns, it will be on my website, as well as the full measurements listed in the description box below. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and take a look at my other Easter recipes. While the butter is melting in a large mixing bowl, measure out the milk and crack in the egg. Make sure your milk and egg are both at room temperature, as this mixture is what is going to wake up the yeast and it needs to be warm to work. You'll need to add half of the sugar, as this gives the yeast something to feed off. One of the most important tips I can give you when making dough is remember yeast is alive, so if you be too rough with its conditions, it won't survive, so make sure you don't place it into boiling hot butter. Pour the hot melted butter into the bowl, the milk will cool it down so it won't cook the egg, and add a teaspoon of active dried yeast. Use a whisk to combine the ingredients and set aside for 10 to 15 minutes or until bubbly and frothy. If you do have a bread maker, you can use that now instead of doing the remaining steps by hand. When your yeast mixture looks frothy and bubbly like this, you can start to add the remaining ingredients and form it into a dough. One important thing here is you'll need bread flour instead of all-purpose flour. It can also be called strong flour or high-grade flour. This flour has a stronger protein content than regular all-purpose flour, which is important when you're making any type of bread. The protein helps the gluten develop in the dough, which leads to a chewy and elastic texture instead of cake. Measure out the flour. You'll need 3 1/4 cups, followed by half a cup of cocoa powder to of course make the dough chocolate flavoured. You'll also need the remaining sugar and a pinch of salt to round out all the flavours. We'll also be adding chocolate pieces or chocolate chips, but as that has a tendency to melt, that's best left until later. Let me know in the comments below if you've had a hot cross buns or chocolate hot cross buns before. They're really popular where I live, but I know different places around the world don't have them. Also, let me know if you prefer traditional with raisins and spices or chocolate. I'm not a huge fan of raisins, so chocolate it is for me. Use a wooden spoon to start to mix the ingredients together to form a dough. When it gets too stiff, clean up your work surface, sprinkle over some flour and turn out the dough. Use the palm of your hands to knead the dough for 5 to 10 minutes or until elastic and smooth in appearance. A few things to keep note of here. You want your dough to be sticky, but not too sticky. Add just enough flour so the dough feels sticky, but doesn't stick to your hands. You want to knead the dough with the palm of your hands until it comes together, becomes elastic and looks smooth. This is when the gluten has developed and kneading develops the gluten. Shape your dough into a ball. It should look smooth, and place it back into the mixing bowl. Cover with a damp tea towel and leave in a warm place to double in size for about an hour or 2. When the dough has doubled in volume, punch it back and turn it out onto your floured work surface. Press the chocolate dough into a disc and pour over your chocolate. I've gone for my favourite chocolate, which I've cut up with a knife, but you can also use chocolate chips if you would prefer. Bring the sides of the dough into the centre and knead for about a minute until the chocolate is evenly distributed. Use a table knife or a dough scraper to divide the chocolate dough into 10 pieces. Press each piece into a disc, bring in the centre, turn it over and roll into a smooth ball. This way just helps to get a smooth finish to each of the chocolate buns. Place each ball of dough on a baking sheet lined with baking paper. Leave about an inch of space in between as they will rise. Cover the dough with a damp tea towel and leave to double in volume in a warm place for about an hour. Finish off the chocolate hot cross buns by piping over chocolate crosses, a mixture of flour, cocoa powder and water. Place the hot cross buns into a 180°C or 350°F oven for 20 minutes. Remove them from the oven and optionally brush over simple syrup, which is equal parts sugar and water boiled together to give the buns a shine. Serve fresh or toasted with a little bit of butter and enjoy. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recipe and I'll see you in my next video.